It's good to see each and every one of you here this evening, and glad to have you. And we have several reports we will be needing to go over this evening. Before we begin, we'd like to have the approval of the minutes, and I'll ask that our Vice Chairman take care of that for us. Commissioner Gammon.
Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes and found them to be in order and request their approval.
We have a motion to approve. Commissioner Gammon.
Second.
Have a second. Commissioner Sereno. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are approved. Moving into item number 2, Correctional Work Center report.
I'll try to be brief on our actual meeting minutes and things, because we got a couple things I need to talk about and go over. So what you have in this packet is going to be the meeting minutes from our Correctional Work Center board meeting in June. Our work release program, no significant changes there. Our yearly activity report, population staying about the same. Next will be the trash collected on county, state, and interstates are as follows. County roads, county trash collected 12,820 pounds collected over the last month. And then on the state routes, including the interstate, 604 bags collected, and large bulk items were collected. I think in the past month, that might even include a small boat that we picked up. And then that was on I-24 and 840. Our monthly worker report with a total combined savings of $69,886. That was for April, and then May with a savings of $75,886 using inmate labor. And I have a contract, which is our litter grant, and then I want to talk a little bit about our contract with our state litter also. So if do we need to get a...
Let's get approval on your report. Any discussion on the report? Any questions on the report from any member? A motion approved. Commissioner P. to have a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Report's approved. Now we can continue probably with what the government grant contract.
This is, yes, sir. This will be our grant that we actually took on from solid waste. There's not a whole lot of changes in that. And you'll see the total on that is $124,100. And that's for the litter pickup and prevention education.
Any questions on this grant?
A motion to apply for the grant. I think it's what you're needing now.
We have a motion, Commissioner P. to apply for the grant. Second, Commissioner Phillips.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Virgil Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
And the sheet that I passed you all out is That is a result of our negotiation with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where they pay us for the state routes. Couple big changes on that, and I don't have the full contract yet because we just finished that today. But by the time that it goes to budget, we'll have an actual contract, but this will give you an idea of the numbers. Only two changes to that is that the state is going to, they were allocated some funds by the governor, so they're going to take the interstates back, doing the litter pickup on the interstates, which is a huge blessing to us. Those are where some of our contraband issues have come out of, and we had some medical bills that just weren't worth the, as they say, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on doing the interstate, so they're going to take those back. The other change is that they're going to increase our per mile dollar from $75 to $85, so that's $10 a mile on all the ones that you see listed here, which are our state routes. So last year the contract was $83,000. This year it's going to be $70 without the. Last year it was $83 with the interstates. This year it's going to be $70 without the interstates. So $13,000 less. And like I said, one trip to the ER costs us that. So I think it's a blessing that we'll be able to not have to worry about those, and at the same time be able to take our efforts and focus them more on the county roads and the state routes within the county, as opposed to working on the interstate, which was a never-ending process.
Any questions on this, gentlemen? Basically, this is what we're wanting to send on over to. I think this is what we will be accepting.
Yes, sir. And he'll have the contract probably by tomorrow, and I'll get legal and send it to the mayor.
Let's have a motion if we can.
Motion to approve the contract.
Second.
Have a second.
Commissioner Gammon? Yes. Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chairman Reed. Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
And then Chairman Reed.
Yes.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Hang on just a second, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I was talking to Ms. Nolan this afternoon. Members, if you'll recall, a couple of years ago, we took $100,000 out of the Gov 20 money, the first grant that we got, and we bought mechatronics equipment, type equipment, and put it at the workhouse. And so we don't have to buy new equipment, but the salary for the gentleman that we hired to train or teach the course to give the certification for those guys, so when they do their time and they are released from the workhouse, they have a certification, they've passed this course in this type of mechatronics, and they can go out and get a job and maybe get a car where they can get back and forth to work. And if you recall the whole process of that, what was failed to get picked up, and Lisa caught it, was the salary for the gentleman that comes from General Motors in Spring Hill and puts on the class. His last name starts with a P.
Yes.
Yes, starts with a P. I can't pronounce it. But
remember his name either.
do you recall the amount?
I don't. I think that doesn't come through our budget. I think that was coming through.
It was coming out of the Gov money.
Right.
The Gov 20 money, it was included. And Lisa said we just need to take it out of that Gov money because we've depleted it. We spent $93,000 on engineering last week for the Goldstein's building and architectural design. So, Chairman, she's got that on the agenda for discussion on Wednesday night at budget. So we'll bring that up under other items that needs to be added to the budget. Wednesday night is his salary. But if it's proper, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see a motion out of this committee to go to budget. Otherwise, if we don't have that salary in there to keep the training going on a perpetual basis, then the equipment just sits there with nobody to do the training. I think it was a nominal amount. It was supplementing his salary.
Yeah, I don't think the total even came to what a full-time employee.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of a
not that-
part-time
Yeah.
salary. It's not required because it's going to come out of that. She's going to pull it out of the Gov 20 money and put it into the budget, but eventually, from now on, it'll be in your budget
Okay.
for that purpose.
I don't have a problem making a positive motion to forward this to budget contingent upon us receiving the amount.
Yes, sir.
Without making the amount, I just want to go ahead and send it to budget with a positive recommendation from our committee to address this.
Sure.
Got the second. Motion made by Commissioner P., second Commissioner Phillips, that we go ahead and send this. And gentlemen, I think it's quite important we do this. I was over there the day that our Lieutenant Governor was down to see all of this in operation, and it's quite impressive. I think Commissioner Sereno was there that day as well. But unless you have seen what this is changing lives, the thing that sort of impressed me was the fact that we have individuals that are going through our work facility there, and when they are released, they're coming back to complete the study. I mean, they have been released, they've served their time, but yet they're coming back to finish the study there so they can get all of this to be out here as a workable employee somewhere. And that tells you what we're getting out of this. So I just thought I'd bring that up. I thought it's something that's really good. All right, we have a motion. We have the second. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you, sir. All right, item 3, Juvenile Detention Report.
Good evening. So before you, you have our month of May activity report. We still have not received our billing from Haywood or Marion. However, I think it's partially due to the fact that this meeting was a little early in the month, and that's not anything that I'm worried about. As usual, I'll be happy to discuss any of the items on any of the rest of the report. I do have a couple of interesting things to share. We have started some preliminary talks with a local restaurant. Steak and Shake has reached out to our chaplain and also our Title I programming gentleman to have some input in our job readiness program, so we're excited about that. And I'm also happy to report that as of right now, we have only 1 full-time position opening and 2 part-time position openings. But beyond that, I'll happily answer any questions.
Any questions, gentlemen?
That is the average for the month of the young people who went to court that were held in the facility.
So that's basically somebody you had to transport? Is that what you're telling me that means?
No, our court is in the same building as detention. So those are kids that were brought to us, officially booked in, stayed for some amount of time, and then we walked them to the other part of the building for juvenile court. So that's not how many juvenile court cases total there were. Those are just cases that came from within our department and went to juvenile court.
Okay, and that brings me to my next question. Is the line under that, the petitions filed with juvenile court?
Okay, so I think it was at the last steering meeting, the juvenile court has a judicial commissioner, and then the sheriff's department also has judicial commissioners. And all of the judicial commissioners can take down the information either from law enforcement or for parents or guardians and type up juvenile petitions to be served. Sometimes those are served immediately because the child is in custody. Sometimes they are filed and go to warrants and are served the next time there is interaction with that child. So those petitions are how many that the juvenile court judicial commissioner filed in her office for the month.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the report?
Motion to approve.
So move, Commissioner Rather.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gammon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety Director. Good evening, sir.
Chairman, Mayor, Committee. We have sent out a public safety report from May 19th to June the 14th. A couple of items that I'd like to bring to your attention throughout that document is one, that we continue to work on WebEOC that will help us with our partners and collaborate with resources. And also, we have working on tapping onto the state. So basically, if we ordered a resource during a disaster, we don't have to make those phone calls. We just send it through that process, which is a huge advantage, along with situational awareness and things like that. That was approved by this committee some time ago. Getting all that software and getting it up and running, it sometimes is a challenge with the amount of staff that we have, but we're working on that and hopefully get that off the ground. Also, I'd like to bring to your attention that we provided a exercise on the Percy Priest Lake here recently. We had an abundance of volunteers as patients. This was kicked off by Ascension interns that needed an uncontrolled environment to provide and practice on triage, which we use that for our local responders as well and put it in a remote area where it becomes a challenge. I'd like to say and thank all of our volunteers for being patients. They were wonderful. I'd like to thank our Ascension Hospital and the interns for their participation in this event. And then also I'd like to thank our local responders, the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, EMS, fire departments assisted us. Las Casas Fire Department assisted us with refreshments, along with Motorola and also some other partners that sponsored some drinks and things like that. So it was a huge event, kind of challenging with so many moving parts in different locations. So we were, it's the first ever mass casualty on the lake in Rutherford County. But we find that that's a necessity due to the growing population and amount of recreational participation on that lake. Unfortunately, we had a fatality this week on Percy Priest Lake that we responded to. Also throughout there, we have a lot of activity going on in our communications center with multiple things going on, such as not only call handling, but we have security systems putting in. We have several other events that, whether it's quality assurance programs and looking at our Vesta phones and things like that. So a lot of moving parts along with project management. Our fire department, EMS, EMA is receiving right now card swipes that's been in the making for quite some time. And we've met some challenges with OIT. They've met some challenges with supply chains. So we're just now getting that up and moving, and hopefully we can end those projects. I would entertain any questions that you may have concerning our report.
Questions on the report? We have a motion to approve the report. Motion approved, Commissioner P. Or I believe it's Commissioner Phillips. We have a second. Second, Commissioner Rather. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is approved. I believe you have a procedure manual.
Yes, sir. About a month ago, we presented our standard operating guidelines for our communications center. This is something that we've updated, and we'd like for your blessings from public safety to move on to steering so that we can proceed on with our new standard operating guidelines. If there are any questions, I'll take.
I'll make a motion to forward these to steering.
Motion has been made to forward on. Second. Mr. Gilman, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Taken care of, sir.
I have one more request for application for a grant. Is
Okay.
that okay?
Go right ahead.
So recently, we received notification that we could apply for a mitigation grant for the mitigation grant is to prepare for other events. We have appointed our Ag Lane Center as part of our continuing operations plan in the event that our local government here at the courthouse and other departments had to move because they could not operate in this building, whether it was demolished, whatever it may need. However, at Ag Lane, there's no backup generator. It's our request to apply for this mitigation grant. It's a 90-10 if we do it before the end of the year, and be able to receive that generator on a grant.
Should matching grant, Chris.
It's a 90-10. Now, after this year, it becomes a 75, 12.5, 12.5.
Total 214.
Sir?
Total 2.
So we got some estimates because we're going to have to bid this out or purchase it on consortium and such as that. With concrete, electrician, the generators, and the complexity of placing this generator on site, we've gotten up to estimates up to $400,000, which would be $40,000 at the end of, if we were able to, we apply and we receive the grant, it'd be 90-10 by the end of the year.
County, we somewhere in the neighborhood of 36,000.
Hopefully.
Well, this is something that'll come back to us if we allow you to apply.
Yes, sir.
And we can look at what the exact amount would be, because I imagine you're going to have a little better bid than that, or was that a solid bid, that 400?
It was a quote. We've used 2 or 3 different vendors to receive those numbers. However, if we are awarded the grant, we would have to do a bidding situation. And those numbers, due to inflation, it could go up. We don't know what the economy is, could go down. But these are pretty good numbers that we feel like that kind of give us an idea, a ballpark of what you would approve.
Well, I'll make a motion to allow you to apply for the grant.
Okay, we have a motion to apply for the grant.
Second.
Have a second. Commissioner Sereno. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Chris, the only
Thank
thing
you,
I'd
sir.
ask is add in some pylons in case somebody else decides to drive down the hallway there again.
And that's a thought, because they went all the way through that building.
Right, ambulance service? Evening, Director.
So for the month of May, we made 3,318 calls, 48 hospital transfers. The response time was 7.4. 66 DOAs for the month. State payments from DOAs was $1,650. 24 autopsies, $47,040, and year-to-date autopsy fees are $517,440. We billed $1,631,248 for the month. We collected $677,178, and projected collections is $9,710,111. And then on the convalescent side, there was 394 calls. We billed $300,033, collected $111,769. The projected yearly collections is $1,393,352. Then there's just a couple of notes there from Vanderbilt and some outstanding calls from the hospital and a couple of thank you notes at the end. And that's my report.
Just a question myself. I noticed that the number of DOAs seems to be down some.
Yes, sir. Me and Carl were talking about that beforehand, and not really sure. My guess would be they'll probably catch themselves back up next month.
Or could it be the pandemic sort of slipped out of
Maybe.
there too, and some of that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's one of those things. I haven't really tracked how those numbers flow, but I would say they're probably pretty consistent up and down like that.
Pendulum does swing. Other questions?
My iPad just went south on me here, but your estimates for money that you're billing, I know you've changed your billing service. How's that trending? Is that we got to increase, or have you had enough time to tell?
It has increased some, and with the information that they received prior to us starting with them in October, they're saying we're above what those projections were. This month, the collections were, it surprised me a little bit that that's what it was. But we also cut off the end of the month at the end of the month. They may get some they may collect some into the first of the month, and then they can post it back, but we cut it off at the end of the month. So, but they are saying we're above what they projected. I definitely, we're heading in the right direction.
I'm good on the questions. That's all I wanted to ask. I couldn't read my iPad where it blanked out, so.
Okay. Other questions? Motion made to approve. Commissioner Phillips, any second? Second, Commissioner Rather. All those in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is approved. Thank you, sir. All right, fire and rescue. Farley.
First up, we had a man that used to be employed with Rutherford County that drowned in a fishing accident this weekend, and our special operations team responded, and our 2 divers recovered that gentleman, and in pretty short period of time. So, we had for the month of May, we had 595 calls. We had 4 structure fires, 8 vehicle fires, 317 medical calls, 65 MVAs, 39 with injuries, 26 without. Year-to-date, we've had 2,952 calls, and then the next sheet is just showing the response of all the volunteers, and county included, for a total of 56 structure fires, 61 brush fires, 41 illegal burns, 46 vehicle fires, 539 MVAs, 13 of those required extrication, and for a total of 3,647 calls of countywide. Next sheet is the 2 structure fires that we reported to Codes Department. There was also a shop that was burnt, but it I just list the homes for codes. Then the alarm installations, and then for the arson, the fire investigators report, well, the Lunar fire was closed, and it was a failure of a well pump. The one on Richardson Road was a pretty good sized shop, and that was the arrest made in that. And I think they finally confessed to it, that they set the fire. So that'll be going to court. And then the last sheet is our unauthorized illegal burn report. And that completes my report.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question. It's now you can burn without a permit until I think October.
October
right?
15th, yeah.
All right, so I've been presenting this question years ago. I knew the answer, but apparently something's changed. If you should get a permit when you're supposed to. Back in the day, or back quite some time ago, people were told to call the sheriff's office and let them know you're burning. This past year, I've had a few people, 3 or 4 actually, that have said we're supposed to call the fire department, call you, but then there was a day where the sheriff's office showed up. If they saw smoke or whatever during the permit period, who do they call?
Well, don't call the sheriff's office because they have enough calls to deal with now, but we do have people call our office and say, hey, we're going to be burning today, just want to let y'all know about it. I'll document it and let dispatch know about it. During the time that you have to have a permit, our dispatch and EMS and fire, there's a website that fortunately posts those permits on. So if we get called out something, they'll say, hey, this location does have a permit on file. So, or if somebody calls in, that they monitor that to know who's got a permit, who don't. So if we're paged out to that type of fire, they'll say, hey, we're not showing a permit for this location, or we're showing a permit. But basically, the only thing you can burn is vegetation that was grown on your property. You cannot cut vegetation and carry it somewhere else and burn it. And you can't burn anything but vegetation. In other words, what I tell people, if God didn't create it, you can't burn it. No pressure-treated lumber, anything like that's illegal.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Motion to approve the report. Motion, Commissioner Rather, approve the report.
Second.
Several seconds. Commissioner P., I think Commissioner Phillips. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report has been approved.
Thank you, sir.
I think we got what, radio system? Evening.
Committee. I always try to make sure that my report is included in Director Clark's, so my musings are included in that in the interest of time. So just want to give anybody an opportunity, if they had any questions. I haven't been up before you for a little while, so I just want to give anybody an opportunity to ask anything if they need to.
Has everyone got operational radios now, all the departments, or are there any lacking anywhere?
We are still waiting on some equipment from Motorola that is still hung up in supply chain issues. Had a conference call about that this morning. But I have the last two larger groups that were left were solid waste to get their equipment. Their equipment's here. We're in the process of scheduling the trucks to get them run through to get those radios installed. And the detention section of the jail, I just delivered equipment right before I left to go to the conference. So I left with their quartermaster for them to internally issue out through their process that they need to. The maintenance division at the sheriff's office is attached to the detention section. So I have those radios in my truck, then I'll try to get over there tomorrow to get them issued over there too. I think that was the two largest groups that we had left that were. Everyone else is on the new side of the system. Everything on the radio side of the system is pretty solid, and the subscribers that I talked to out in the field seem to be pretty happy with it. We got those comments from the after action from the exercise that we did the other day. There were comments made that generally if you were on a boat, it was very hard to talk, and everyone talked well during that exercise. So we're getting there.
What about the school system?
School system is separate. They buy their radios through themselves on a grant. The director of safety over there is responsible for how they use their radios. We just give them talk groups that talk to us, but ultimately they handle that themselves.
So you hadn't been checking as far as how their reception inside their buildings are and how they're able to get out?
I have been in contact with Safety Director OSHA since she assumed that position over there. We have discussed some hiccups between them having their own side of the radio system and then us on the public safety side of the radio system, and improving how the school officials and the SROs talk with one another without getting too many people on the same net and over talking each other. The schools that are about to go under construction with the big rebuild, that gives me a little bit of trepidation once those are finished, because every bit of brick and mortar that we add that makes those bigger does in fact make it harder for those radios to work in there. The solution to that is the bidirectional antennas or the distributed antenna systems. It's going to get harder the bigger the schools get. As of right now, I don't think there's any SROs that are in the schools that are having communication problems, and I don't think that we've had any issues on the fire side.
That was my main question there, if they could get out on theirs.
Yeah, so far so good with it. I do look for us to possibly start having some little hiccups and maybe some busies that come out the bigger those schools get.
Well, I want to stress to you how important that is. If you remember, the problem they had in Texas was communication, and I don't want to hear that here.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're lit up pretty good as far as the signal goes. It is something that we do keep up with and watch.
And if you don't mind, report back next month on who you contacted at schools. And I forget, you mentioned the lady's name. I didn't know who was over that, but I would suggest we invite her to give us a report on that, because I want to make sure we can communicate.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, Sheriff's report. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. As of this morning, our inmate count was 656. We was able to take 18 inmates to the pen the last 2 weeks. We're paying an average of $4.40 for our gasoline this month, and that's the end of my report.
I believe each of you have had an opportunity to look at where we are on that. We're coming down to the last rows, I guess is what you might want to say on that. So, any questions that you may have?
Just out of curiosity, what do we budget per gallon for this year? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure about the gallons, but the allotted money, I think it was $600,000 we had in the line, I believe.
Any way you look at it, nobody budgeted enough. Nobody could have figured this one out.
It was $700,000 we budgeted for.
Have a motion to approve the report. Motion made to approve.
Second his motion, but I do have a question. Where are you finding gas for $4.40?
Oh, yeah, I understand, yeah. We're lucky. Yes.
We have the motion, have a second. Got the motion and the second. All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else from the sheriff's office? That's got it? Okay, thank you. PAWS?
Good evening. For the month of May, we had 338 animals come into the shelter. We had a live release rate on our dogs of 90.4%, cats were 94.1%, and overall 92.3%. Our euthanasia percentage for the month was 4.6%. We had a little over 1,200 people coming in looking for pets, 2,426 calls and voicemails. Our officers completed out 1,212 calls, and they traveled 9,830 miles. Year to date, we've had 4,909 animals in the shelter, a live release rate of 92.9%. Officers have completed out 16,409 calls, traveling a little over 114,000 miles. Our rabies and bite exposure report, we had 44 bites reported for the month. 2 of those were sent for testing, neither came back positive. We had 7 other exposures. 1 of those was sent for testing, it came back negative as well. And the last page of the report is just a visual graph showing the live release rate versus euthanasia and other outcomes. That's my report, sir.
Any questions for the director? Have the motion to approve the report. Commissioner Phillips, have a second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Report is approved.
One quick question, Michael. While
Yes,
you're
sir.
still up there, a month or 2 ago, we talked about any update on any of that?
As of today, I still have 8 positions open, all of them being full-time positions. It seems like we do interviews, we hire folks. I looked up the day before I came up here. I've personally done 100 interviews since January 1 of this year. I'm so tired of interviewing, I can't even express it. Over the last few weeks, 2 weeks, we hired 7 or 8 folks. I ended up having 2 that actually, I had 3 that showed up for work. 1 did not pass their drug test, and I gained 2, but I lost 2 within that same time frame. We just can't seem to get ahead. And then the positions are across the board. The kennel attendant staff, we had gotten to where I had filled all of those positions with people, so I could not continue interviewing, and then they didn't show up. Same thing with the officer positions. So we're a little better than where we were 2 or 3 months ago, but it seems like we're just maintaining now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. OSHA, Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to take a look at your reports there on your iPads. You've already received these through SharePoint. Mr. Elam was here earlier, but he received a phone call from his wife. She's very allergic to bee stings, and she's just gotten stung, and he's had to make a quick trip to the emergency room with her to meet her there. So if you'll look over that report and take a look at those and see if there's anything that's questionable within that report, that is pretty much standard to what we normally receive here. I told him to go on, that he didn't need to be here.
Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed this report. It looks normal, and I move that it be adopted.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner P. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The report has been approved. Recovery Court report. I believe Ms. Davis. Welcome. Glad to have you with us this evening.
So the report for the month of May, it does show that we had 141 current participants. We had 6 new participants in the month of May. I want to note that it says that there were 20 terminations. 11 of those were graduates for the month of May. 1 of those was actually terminated due to not successful in the program, and 8 of those were moved from one court to the other, so they weren't actually terminated. They're still in the program. And if there's any questions regarding the report, I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can.
Questions on the report?
I got a suggestion. Instead of terminations, put graduations.
Graduations, I will definitely make note of that. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Lindsay for coming tonight and giving the report. Of course, our director has left, and Lindsay has stepped up and asked her to temporarily take over the position on an interim basis until we can get one hired. We had our first interview this afternoon at 2 o'clock. I did invite the other judges to come and sit through the interview process so they had input. And we'll have 3 more, I think, the rest of this week, and hopefully we can get someone hired within the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. A motion, I believe.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Rather, have a second. Second. Commissioner Fields, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is approved. I believe you have a reentry program grant.
Yes, I do. So the next matter that I have is permission to apply for extra grant funding. This is for it's the Recovery Court Reentry Program. It is additional grant funding through the State of Tennessee Office of Criminal Justice Programs. It is a current grant between the Reentry Program and the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department. The grant would be extended for an additional 3 years, up to $1 million. It would let us implement vocational employment life skills training at the jail and at the work center if we could add them onto the grant. It would be, again, I said, up to 3 years, up to $1 million, and it is no match to the funding if we could apply for that.
Say a motion to approve the
Motion approved for the apply for the grant.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon, excuse me, Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, probation report.
Good evening. For our May report, we terminated or closed out 121 cases that equaled out to 117 people. We currently supervise 1,165 people on probation. For the month of May, we had 67 class participants in our programs. 25 individuals completed those programs successfully, and then we did have 3 that were unsuccessfully discharged from class. As far as our Olive Branch program, we were able to help 9 people in the month of May. 7 out of those 9 were homeless. 2 of those individuals were just suffering from hardship, hopefully briefly. We did receive some donations from the public in the month of May, so I did note those donations that we did receive. 4 bags of clothing that was both a mix of men's and women's. And then as far as our pantry, we were part of a program that Cigna put on, and Ed Elam helped with that. And it was a Steps into Spring challenge. So it was a challenge within county employees, including the teachers and Board of Education employees as well. So that was something that helped us out there with our pantry. And then we also, from a different individual, received some toothbrushes and toothpaste, which we take like items like that for granted, but sometimes those items are very helpful. For the month of May, our total revenue was $19,057.43, with a difference of our expenditures equal to $112,776.31. In the month of May, we turned over $11,403.75 to the clerk's office to be collected through payment agreements. In the month of May, probation fees equaling $4,506 were not turned over to the clerk's office to be on payment agreements. Or let me clarify, they are turned over to the clerk's office to be part of a payment agreement, but if that individual has not entered a payment agreement, it's not included. So sometimes people just don't ever enter a payment agreement and just have those fees outstanding. So far this fiscal year, $85,723.70 was turned over to the clerk's office to be collected on payment agreements. And so far this fiscal year, $47,595.45. Those individuals did not go to the clerk's office and enter a payment agreement. As of today, or as of the month of May, I'm sorry, we had 17 individuals that were deemed indigent by the court. The second thing that I want to discuss today, which is something new, so about a month ago, I was contacted through the Mental Health Co-op about a new program that was funded through the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, and it's I did give some articles as far as the program so that you guys, if you wanted to read about the program itself. This program is set up for individuals that would be low risk, but they don't qualify for a recovery program, or maybe there's not a spot available for someone in recovery court. So it's just for individuals that have substance abuse disorders. It's those people that continue into the system and can't get out of the system. It's just a recurring thing where, you know, if they're not sober, they're not going to report. If they are going to report, then they're going to be positive. So it's just this vicious cycle. We have a program in our office to individuals that failed their first drug screen are sanctioned. So once they're sanctioned, they go into a 12-week MRT class that's at our office. So these individuals for this program have been either given that opportunity in the past, or it might be a second violation or a third violation, and maybe they're looking at, you know, the court ordering them to serve their sentence. This is an opportunity that they can have. This is a grant-funded program that is through the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. We have about 6 weeks that we started meeting. Judge Bennett is going to lead that court. This program was actually founded back in 2013 by a judge named Judge Sloan, which is in the 4th District of Tennessee. So we're really excited. We have a treatment team that involves myself, Judge Bennett, public defenders, and district attorneys. So that program, I'm really excited. We're all really excited about it. So I just wanted to share that with y'all along with some articles so that if you had any questions about the history of the program or what it entails, that you had that knowledge too. So I'll be happy to answer questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll always come back with it. And that would be my report.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one. When the public donates clothes, should someone want to do that, how do they get it there? Where do they donate those clothes?
If they wanted to donate them, we have our public entrance, which is always open to the public. That's the best entrance because the front doors are key card, and it's at 119 West Main Street. So we're actually right where the new Pinnacle Bank is. Those doors are always open, and you can always just call the office and give a heads up, or you can just come in anytime. We open at 7 and then we close at 7. So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Gammon, second. Made the motion. I'm taking this and that's the second over here. So both of them pretty much on the same call here. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's see. Other business? Other business? Do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Time you're going to give me to kind of reiterate what has happened. Oh, I'm sorry.
Talk to those guys out there.
You got the statistics from the county on our calls, and they were saying that we're not answering our calls, and I'm answering the calls without a fire truck, and that I'm answering a call in my SUV. That's not true. I've got the paperwork here. I'm going to hand it. On your left-hand side is the water report that I send to Chief Farley every month. You can see the calls that were made there. We also have the water report there, the number of gallons we used. We also have the mileage on the trucks. And there's from January through May, in behind that. On the second page, I went through, instead of printing off 130-something calls that I make up every time we run a call, instead of printing all those things out and handing you 130 of the things to go through, I went through and I put the date the call was, the type of call it was, the number of personnel responded, and also over there I put the cancel. We get a lot of cancellations, and there's some of them, and I understand that it's hard to respond to these things. With a volunteer, we get up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, get to our station, get in the truck, roll out on 96, and you're canceled. Well, it's hard to get these people up at night when they got to go to work the next morning. So I don't know if there's something way we can work out that we won't have as many false calls. As you can see on there's quite a few of them. But that's the calls that we've made from January until June the 19th. And behind those pages, there's another page. There's 6 pages that I get off of I am responding. These are the people that answered those calls whenever the tones went off. They go in and hit the button, and it tells who's on call, who's coming to the call. And I've got it on my phone, and all the firefighters have got it on their phones, and they hit the button saying they're responding. And you can see there that the people, now, you're seeing the same names on there that they're responding, because I don't have a bunch of firefighters, but the firefighters that I've got are answering these calls. We're not neglecting our duty out there. We're answering our calls. So I'll answer any questions that I can for you.
Where were you prior to this meeting last hour?
Say again?
Where were you the last hour before this meeting?
I'm sorry. At a fire call. We had a structure fire out right at Station 52. And my guys were supposed to be here backing me up, but they're cleaning up helping 52 clean up the area there and roll the hoses and all the other stuff there.
Did y'all roll an apparatus?
Yes. We had a tanker, we had an engine, a tanker, a service company, and I think it was six people there.
Thank you.
Other questions that anyone may have, or?
You know, we've got a problem with ESO. That's why this is happening, and I apologize. My guys aren't the best on paperwork, and a lot of it is because we're not putting it in ESO fast enough, and that's going to stop. I've done told them, started last week, every time we get from call, the call is going to be put in the ESO before we leave the station.
I think it was part of the problem. Something I want to mention, just from having been a volunteer. When I was a volunteer, we trained in our station, and then those of us that wanted to got certification through the state, me being one of them. I spent weeks and weeks where most people were vacationing and going, having fun. I was dragging around hoses and climbing ladders in 110 heat and spending my time there. And what has happened since then, of course, then I had to pay for all that. Nowadays, we've got a department that's training our people. Of course, you still have to go to the state to get certification. But if you look at our state and the way it's set up for firefighting, there are no volunteer chiefs that are on that fire commission. They're all paid departments, and they all kind of lean to the paid department side because they're not getting input from the volunteer side. Personal opinion. I'm not saying that they're not giving good advice, but the requirements nowadays are so stringent. Before you can fight fire, you have to have certain certifications. Makes good sense.
Yes, sir.
You know, but what I'm saying is part of the reason you're not seeing as many volunteers, in my opinion, again, is because all this certification and so much of it has to be done on the front end. I mean, you can't just volunteer and take daily training, or weekly training. We used to train twice a week for a couple of hours and go out, practice with the hoses, practice with drill, practice with the air packs. I mean, you really got a good indoctrination. But nowadays, you have to have that certification before you can actually do that. And, you know, you're talking about weeks and weeks. How many weeks does it take now to certify? I'd say at least 3. That's a guess, and that's probably not right, probably too low.
Yeah, you got to have even ride in the fire truck, you got to have a 16-hour course before you can even get in the truck and ride it.
So part of the problem with getting volunteers is some of the state regulations that have been handed down by the Fire Chiefs Association, I assume, is who's making these regulations. I may be wrong on that now. But as I said, you don't have volunteers that are in that group that are making those decisions.
state puts out a report every 3 or 4 or 5 years, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. I'll give you a copy of it. But 73% of the firefighters in the state of Tennessee are volunteers.
And
6% are paid guys. But the 6%, the fire training is set up for that 6%, not the 73% that. And there's a couple of percentages where it's combination paid and volunteer, so.
one of the counties very close to us, Williamson County's fire department, is all volunteer. So it's very possible to do that, but
it's hard.
They are going about it a different way, and I want to speak to the volunteer chiefs about some of the methods they're using, and I think that
I need
might
to
be
go down there.
productive to us.
I need to go down there and talk with them and see what they're doing. And the county has got a retention and stuff for the volunteers. They got a grant for that, and that's just started up, and I'm anxious to see how it's going to work out to recruit and retain the volunteers that we do have. And it just started up. Also, I want to say that this could have been avoided if they would have just came to my department and asked me, are you having trouble making calls, or are you need help? If you would talk to the fire chiefs before you come on and do stuff like this, it would be nice. I mean, this could have been avoided.
Well, communication is always the key.
Yes, sir.
But
I mean, I'm not mad at anybody, and I'm not holding any hostility. I just wanted to put, because my department sends out a letter every year asking for a donation of $50, and we get a response out of that is tremendous. And whenever you go in the budget committee May the 16th, and you put that stuff out there, and they're watching that, and I put out a letter saying I need money, then they say, well, he's not making his calls, I'm not going to give him any money. So it hurts us there too, so.
Well, I personally want to thank you for your service and
yes, sir.
The amount of money that all the volunteers are saving this county.
Yes, sir.
It would
They, like I said, the guys that are making the calls, you can look at that call sheet, and it's about the same 4, 5, 6 people of answering the calls. Now, during the daytime, I'm usually about the only one. I've got another one now that works at home, but he's just started. He's got about a year under his belt, and I'm hoping to get him. So at least we'll have two volunteers. But during the day, people work. It's hard to get volunteers to keep coming back.
Well, the only thing I want to stress, it's vital that we have fire protection in that area. And of course, we have
yes, sir.
Our own county fire department, which can help us respond. But still, it's your responsibility to get those jobs filled, or those volunteers filled.
And I look forward to that new building. I don't, whether it's a paid department or a volunteer, but that would be a good retention, recruit and retention thing right there. You're moving into a new station, and you got everything there, that you need right off of the bat. And I think that's going to be a tremendous thing for volunteers if the volunteers are still in it. So.
Okay, what are we requesting, or are we?
I don't think there was a request. He just wanted to clear the air.
Information available.
The statements were made back in May at our 16th budget meeting. He was not responding vehicles. He was only showing up in a SUV car, which he can't fight fire out of unless he's got a shovel and a rake and a flapper to fight a brush fire. So yes, you could. Okay. But, part of that was due to a glitch, either not knowing how or a glitch in the software. so that Mr. Farley wasn't getting the reports that were there. And when Mr. Moses contacted me, I said, look, I said, call the dispatch. They've got it. That's all you got. And that's, of course, that's where you've got that information. And Mr. Clark helped him with that also. But, you know, it's vital that we have personnel to fight these fires, and we appreciate you helping us.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Well, thank you for bringing it to us and bringing us into our attention. Appreciate you. Anything else needs to come before this committee? Commissioner Phillips.
One quick thing, Lindsay Davis, who presented the, I believe, the recovery report, that was Lindsay, right, that did that? That just staying on top of things and applying for grants is extremely important to this county, and I'd just like to commend her for staying on top of that and making sure that those grants are applied for and we don't lose that money. So good job on our part to see that her part to see that that department is running smooth.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Anything else? If not, we're adjourned.